Okay, so now we're going to move to session 2, which I'm so excited to hear about. The title is Future of Georgia-Japan Business Partnership and Workforce Development. Please welcome our amazing moderator, Mellissa Takeuchi. She is a Senior Project Manager at the Georgia Department of Economic Development. Mellissa, please. Panelists. So if your panelists please come up. Raymond Shelton, Chief Sustainability and Communications Office at YKK AP America. Mary Overholt, Human Resource Director at Kubota Manufacturing of America. And Terence Tsai, Strategic Planning Manager at American Honda Motor Company.
Thank you, Nozomi-san. Perfect. All right, can everybody hear me? Awesome. Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here. Really quickly, so again, my name is Mellissa Takeuchi. I am a Senior Project Manager for the Georgia Department of Economic Development. So what that means is I work recruiting new companies to the state of Georgia. The department, what we do is we work growing the Georgia economy. So, and I do that by trying to bring in new Japanese companies to the state. Wanted to talk a little bit about, we're here to talk about, let's see, what is our topic? Business and workforce development, right? But also I want to talk a little bit about how Georgia and Japan business ties have evolved. So a couple of years ago, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the office of the state of Georgia being in Tokyo. And I don't know if you're familiar, but the state of Georgia established our very first overseas office in Tokyo in 1973. We now have 12 offices around the world, but the very first one was in Tokyo, and then Governor Jimmy Carter put it there, and 6 months later was in Europe, and now we're all over. But that was a really big deal because he recognized the importance of the Japanese market back in the 70s. That was before the boom in the 1980s, right? So we've known for that long. And so talking about how does that impact now, it's talking about we're talking about partnerships and long term. And anyone who's worked with Japanese businesses, in the Japanese business environment, knows that Japanese companies make decisions not based on a year, 5 years, 10 years down the road. They make decisions based on decades of future thought, right? So that's how Georgia also thinks when it comes to these decisions and partnerships. So these 50 years that we have had this relationship started with YKK was one of our first investors in Georgia. So when we talk about the future also of the relationship with Georgia and Japan, the partnership and the strength has been built on that strong foundation of the 50 plus years. That's really important to us. So also thinking about the current situation at what's happening around the world with the uncertainty. Georgia is a very stable environment with business. And so Japanese businesses, like most businesses, stability is really important. And so they can find that in Georgia. So that's really important. So that they can find that with a partner in Georgia. Partnerships, that is a word that I keep hearing from everyone. The Consul General brought that up. Pat brought that up. So this is really important for the state of Georgia as well. So we bring that when we're talking about the Georgia-Japan relationship. Want to mention that that is also important for the state of Georgia. So that's my spiel. I want to now talk about our panelists. So really quickly, I know that we said your name and your title, but very briefly, give you less than a minute. If you could, again, remind them of your name and title, but also your previous job positions very quickly, under a minute, and if you have any previous connection with Japan. So I'll start with you, Terry.
Thank you. All right.
There's
Good
a mic.
afternoon, everybody. All right. Good afternoon, Terry. No, I'm just kidding. So I work for Honda, if you've ever heard of the car company, the mobility company. I've been with Honda for 27 years, so longer than the students have been alive, but But yeah, Honda's just been a great place to work. I graduated from Purdue University as an engineer and started as an engineer, got an MBA from Purdue also, and then moved into the business planning side of things. Came down to Georgia about 10 years ago, and I've been in the kind of manufacturing world for about 10 years because we build 10-speed automatic transmissions on the west side of the state of Georgia. But for about the past year, I've kind of gone back to my roots on the business side. So now I do strategic planning, where actually my team is based out of California, but I'm in Georgia. But in this kind of global economy that we have now, right, we can do things remotely and whatnot. But it's an honor to be here with you guys.
Thanks, Terry. Perfect. Awesome. Next.
Hi, I'm Mary Overholt. I'm the Director of HR for Kubota Manufacturing in Gainesville, Georgia. Prior to working for Kubota, I've been in manufacturing my entire life. I say that. I've been in manufacturing almost 30 years. I started out working on a shop floor building engines at a Caterpillar facility, but I worked for Caterpillar for almost 19 years. That's how I ended up in Georgia. I worked for a Japanese-German company for about 6.5, 7 years before getting recruited by Kubota, and it was the best decision I ever had. Best thing that ever happened to me. We have approximately 3,000 employees in Northeast Georgia, so we're growing. We have 7 buildings and just a little over 3 million square foot of space. So we're piping out those tractors and lawnmowers and side-by-sides.
Thanks, Mary.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ray Shelton. I'm with YKK AP. You heard the name from Mellissa, YKK. You may know that best as the zipper company. I won't ask you to check now, but look on your bags or your person. You might find a zipper that's got the YKK on the back. I'm with the architectural products arm of the YKK family, hence the YKK AP. YKK came to Japan 50 years ago, right at the same time that Governor Carter was establishing the international location in Tokyo. YKK AP, the architectural products business, has been here in Georgia for about 35 years. We're headquartered in Atlanta. We have 2 major manufacturing locations in Macon and Dublin, 1 million square feet manufacturing location for our commercial products, which are the envelopes or the facades of tall buildings or commercial buildings. If you go into a Chick-fil-A, look down and see a sticker at the bottom of the window, you'll see it's a YKK AP product. And we have a brand new manufacturing location in Macon that is producing vinyl-based residential windows and doors, like for homes. I got my start in Japan with the JET program, so maybe just a quick little plug for JET. I know they're here. I spent 3 years in Japan teaching English in Okinawa Prefecture. It was not the worst place to be. It's a tropical island in the south of Japan. And then that got me to the start of what do I do with Japanese. I was actually a French major. I went back and got my MBA, International Business from the University of South Carolina, which requires you to spend time in the country of your language choice, which was Japanese. I interned with Coca-Cola in my MBA days in Japan, and that got me in the door with Coke, where I spent about 22 years, mostly international, starting in finance, and now I'm in communications and sustainability. So I'm kind of the poster child for some of you who may not know what exactly your path should look like. And I would just say that you may not know at the beginning of the path where it's going to go, but as you look back, you're going to see that it makes a lot of sense. So be flexible, right? You don't have to put yourself in a box when you're talking to us today as well. I've been with YKK AP for about 2 years, so a little bit one of our newer hires. We have people that have been there 30 years, so they love it. It's a privately held, family-owned company based in Japan, in Kurobe, up in the northwest of Japan, also based in Tokyo. And we really live our philosophy, the cycle of goodness. No one benefits without rendering benefit to others. And we believe in that. And I think you'll see if you talk to some of us here today, we bring a little flavor of Japan to a very American team. We're based here in Georgia, and our business is only looking to the North America or the U.S. business.
Thanks, Ray. Awesome. Yeah. I was also on JET, but not Okinawa, so that sounds really nice. So these 3 companies, I'm really happy to have you guys here because these 3 companies, like a lot of companies in Georgia, Japanese companies in Georgia, have invested and expanded in Georgia in the past few years. So it's really exciting. So related sort of on that theme, how has your sort of businesses changed over the years since you came to Georgia? And what are some new business opportunities or initiatives that you're working on? I don't know if you want to start with that, Terry?
Sure. So We are actually getting ready our transmission plant, which is the plant that I'm located at. We have two main areas focused in Georgia. So in Tallapoosa, Georgia, we have a 500,000 square foot transmission manufacturing plant. We also have our power sports, power products kind of corporate offices in the Alpharetta area. But I'm more familiar with the transmission plant. And I know Anna said that she was from Ostimo, and that's a joint venture between Hitachi and Honda. And so with this, well, there was a push towards EV. Does anybody have an EV vehicle? Okay. So there was a huge push, right, about 12 months ago, 18 months ago towards EV. And now there's been a little bit of a drawback, right? But we have dedicated a portion of our footprint with Ostimo to grow the business, to start building e-axles. If you know anything about electric vehicles, they don't need transmissions, which freaks out some of my associates. Okay, but you know we have to diversify, right? Honda is ultimately a mobility company, and so yeah, that's one of the things is that the mobility industry is always changing, and so we have to adapt, right? Whether it's making batteries, making e-axles, whatever it may be. Honda has always invested towards the future. So that's one of the opportunities that Honda is pursuing.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Perfect. Mary, did you want to go next?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
So Kubota has been in the U.S. For about 38 years. They started out in one building with about 40 employees, and now we're 7 buildings with 3,000 employees. I've only been with the company about 4.5 years, but just since I've been with the company, they've broke ground and finished the one and only Kubota Research and Development Center of North America, which is located in Lula on 365. And then we just opened up in April our loader manufacturing facility as we're our capacity. We needed more capacity as sales have grown. So I can say that we've reinvested and grown, and you know we're now. I mean, you think 3,000 employees, that's 3,000 families in Northeast Georgia that we're touching.
Yep.
That's
largest Japanese employer in the state.
Huge reach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think to build on that comment, I think I would say growth. Some of us who maybe are a little more cynical, we ask, well, how much growth is there? Are we still growing? You know, much like Kubota and other Japanese linked firms here, we came in from scratch. We didn't buy a company. We kind of came in and planted our roots and started building and building and building. And over time, you've seen us investing and opening new factories. Since I've been with the company in 2 years, we have established our most recent branch sales and fabrication location in Los Angeles. We've opened the new 400,000 square foot greenfield manufacturing plant in Macon, and I'll thank Mellissa. It's not just bringing new Japanese companies in, it's sort of helping us make the decision to stay in Georgia and invest in Georgia as well. So we are, you know, scrappy feeling, I would say here, but with this huge infrastructure and power of the brand of YKK behind us, blowing wind into our sails. And so I really have been pleasantly surprised joining this company, just understanding the growth opportunity that is there. We're very strong on the East Coast, we're very strong in the Southeast, but you really see a lot of investment still going into the growth of the business in North America, in the United States. So lots of opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Hearing, you know, about the investment and everything. I think a lot of the companies that I speak with when I meet with companies, I get to travel around the state and meet with Japanese companies. And it's the workforce and having the skilled workforce here in Georgia, which is really attractive. So I love being at the university today, meeting with you students, letting the companies being aware that we have the workforce, the skilled knowledge here in Georgia, but letting the students know that you can get Japan-related experience and jobs without leaving Georgia. If you don't want to. If you want to, fine, that's great. But if you don't want to, you can get that Japan-related experience here in Georgia. So, talking more a little bit about workforce and skills, what specific technical, cultural, or interpersonal skills are most in demand at your company today? And how are you evolving recruitment, retention, and workplace culture to attract the next generation of talent? Who wants to go first? What about Mary? What do you think?
Sure. I brought notes. I came prepared.
Oh, no.
So the skills that are most in demand, obviously, AI, robotics, data analysis, all that's coming into the workforce, and it's changing how it's not eliminating jobs, it's just reshaping the workforce. So I think what we're looking more for are mechatronics, those industrial maintenance type roles, PLCs, anything to do with automation. There needs to be a focus on the interpersonal skills, communication, teamwork, reliability, and then just cultural skills, respect, humility, teamwork, collaboration. Those are some of our biggest needs in the workforce.
Thank you. And really quickly, please take notes. We're going to have time for questions at the end, so please take notes. And for the students, think about how your own skills may match what these companies need. So just personal note really quickly. And Ray, did you want to go next?
Sure. I think we face some of the same issues, and we have a lot of the same needs as many other companies, not just in Georgia, but certainly here in Georgia. I think some people get a little bit frightened away by the idea of a manufacturing company, but in a company that's we make things, so we're a manufacturing company, but that means that we have all the other roles and needs in an organization that any other company would need. So, if you have an interest in a skill set that's more engineering or manufacturing based, we certainly hire engineers, designers. We have teams that work with architects to help put together the designs for the buildings that they want to build, but we have HR teams and finance teams, communications teams, and maybe just a plug for what I do, right? I lead sustainability, among other things, and in my business, sustainability is a really important and growing topic. Not because it's the latest sort of shiny thing that we all want to talk about, but it's because it's doing the right thing for the communities where we live and for our employees as well. As you can imagine, we're an aluminum-based manufacturing company, right? Big carbon footprint. And so there's a growing need for people who understand how to navigate those company needs and those community needs around sustainability as well. So we kind of move with the times and with the needs of companies here as everyone else. So.
Perfect. Thank you. What about you, Terry?
Yeah, as students, right, and you're learning the Japanese culture, right, that automatically gives you a leg up, right? Because as you walk in, you understand kind of the basic elements of the Japanese culture, kind of like the demonstration that was done earlier, right? So that for sure gives you an advantage. For some people, right, when they walk into our plant and they see an open office environment where even the vice president or the president doesn't have an office, right? Because it's literally just desks upon desks upon desks. Some people get almost like frustrated. I don't want to say frustrated, but almost surprised, right? It's like, well, I want to work my way up to a corner office. Well, there is no corner office, right?
Literally,
yeah. So, as to the second part of your question, right, in terms of, how we're changing things for workforce partners, right? It's for the younger generation, it's like business resource groups. Right, so business resource groups are something that we leverage to improve the business plan, right, to improve our business characteristics. So like I'm the advisor for what we call Honda Young Professionals, all right, and everybody just assumes, oh, once you hit an age limit, you can't be an HYP. But no, it's for those that are young in their career, right, and so there's a little bit of adaptation, a little bit of onboarding that has to happen, and so we focus on trying to do career development, right, working with commerce development, working with community development. Because especially now with this generation that's coming into the workforce, that's important to them. And so we try to leverage that with this is just one of the business resource groups that Honda has.
Okay, that's really helpful. And I guess it's sort of related to that, because we did talk a little bit about that, the students that are studying Japanese especially, should they be concerned about maybe they're not fluent in Japanese, maybe their Japanese is not great at all, should they be concerned about that when they're applying for a position at a Japanese company? How big of a deal is it, the Japanese language skills? Did you want to start maybe with that, Ray?
Not a big deal, yeah, but always great. I speak Japanese, right, and that has been a great benefit since I've joined, but the company did not hire me for my Japanese. Never once did I get asked, do I speak Japanese? But it's been a great benefit, not just as a translator of language, but a little bit of a translator of culture. Why does the Japan mothership want to ask all this information, right? Why do they need to come back and get another, meeting? And it's always helpful just if you've got some kind of insight, some kind of experience, right, that you can leverage. And the fact that you are interested in the culture, even if it's not the language, just gives you that little extra oomph, that shows that you're curious, that you have the willingness to sort of learn, that you have the observational capability to sort of understand how things might be different and adapt, so not at all. But it is nice, and Japanese, we do have some expats here. We do have some communication with Japan. Even if you don't speak great Japanese, if you just make a try, it's really, really appreciated. So,
Yeah. Either you want to make a comment about that, or?
I can comment on just about anything. I don't think understanding the language is not a must, but the awareness of the culture, that's huge in a Japanese company. Being adaptable, that's huge. And honestly, some of the best relationship building is just having those conversations about culture, and how do you say this and how do you say that, and that builds collaboration and builds relationships. So I've used that as an opportunity in my current company, and I've learned some, but I'm very Southern and I'm going to sabotage it. So we just let them speak it.
Nice. Add anything, Terry? Good.
One of the key words that Mary brought up earlier was the word respect, right? Respect for the individual is huge within Honda, but I think just the Asian, countries in general, just their culture. And so, how I explain it to new hires is in very simplest form, respect for the individual is just respecting that everybody's viewpoint is valid to them. Right? And you think of our U.S. culture right now, right? It's not always that way. We kind of just jump to conclusions, right? But how many of you are first generation Chinese, because I'm not Japanese, all right? Even though some Japanese will speak to me in Japanese, because I assume, right? But how many of you have grown up in Indiana as a first generation immigrant, right? No, but that's what I am. So then that's why my viewpoints are valid to me, right? And the Japanese culture is very respective of that, okay? And so, just starting from that viewpoint, we're trying not to make assumptions, right? Trying not to utilize stereotypes. For the most part, the Japanese culture is very good at that.
Yeah. One thing that we had a call before all of this to sort of talk about this session, what we talk about. And one thing I'd love for you guys to touch on is the atmosphere, the experience of working in a manufacturing company nowadays. I think that for some young people, the image of working in a manufacturing facility is, the old school, dirty environment and all of this, and they may not be appealing to them. So I don't know if maybe you could talk a little bit about, what are the new roles in advanced manufacturing? What are people doing nowadays? Are they on, bent over, and it's a different experience than what maybe some of you are imagining. You can have a really great career and amazing experience working in these companies. Did any of you want to sort of give a better image of what people are actually doing in these companies?
So I mentioned about a year ago I changed roles, right? So my previous role was manufacturing department manager. So in making the 10-speed automatic transmission, I had about 120 associates. All right, we had 2-shift operation in which we're sending out a transmission every 32 seconds. Okay, so we're trying to make 1,500 transmissions a day, 370,000 transmissions a year. Right? You think that's a little bit of a struggle? A little bit, right? So I had 57 manned processes and 45 automated cells. Right? So it's almost a 50-50 ratio. Right? And so the engineers that I'm hiring, right, the line is not, it's not just dependent on the associates of the production line, it's also that support staff, right? So if the engineers, which we've hired from, Kennesaw State and Georgia Tech and Auburn and, co-ops and interns and whatnot, that's a big part of it, is just understanding PLC code, understanding Python, but in essence, troubleshooting when you're an engineer, that translates. Doesn't matter if it's in Japanese or English, right? And then the other aspect is just kind of the soft side. The HR, the accounting, I talked to someone about, political science, right? Like those elements within Honda have to support the production associates, right? If the production associates are worried about getting their paycheck or worried about some policy change, You think they're focused on the actual product themselves? No, right? They're distracted, right? It's no different than somebody going through and getting a divorce or losing a loved one, right? We have to be there because we're still human, right? And so from that perspective, all the elements, not just technical focused people, but all the elements of the various roles that we have serve to, in the end, impact our customers. So,
Mary or Dre, did you want to share?
I don't know if I could add much to that. That was very well said. You know, just to add, I didn't graduate high school and think, oh, I want to be in HR in a manufacturing environment. I don't think anybody does that. You know, my goal, I wanted to be a nurse, right? And that's what I was going to school for. And life had some other had other plans for me. But I can tell you that, man, it is so rewarding. You know, the people that you work with, the relationships you build, the people that you talk to every day, and that, you know, you worked with them 5 years ago and now they're having their first child. You know, I'm there to support them. I'm there to help make a life for them and their family. It's very rewarding, and it's not dirty. It's not the grimy. There are so many neat, cool things nowadays with PLCs and robotics. You can do anything with a robot nowadays, and you know, most companies are implementing those automation processes to keep their employees safer and out of those dangerous situations or high heat situations or really dirty situations. So if you love marketing, if you love communication, if you love numbers, if you love just being around people, there's something that anybody can do in a manufacturing environment.
Yeah, I agree. Do you want to add anything, Ray?
No, I think that was all very well said.
Yeah. I'd love a show of hands. Who's here, students that are maybe considering looking for a job or will be looking for a job in the next couple of years? Could you raise your hand? Of you, how many of you have been inside a manufacturing facility? A couple of you have, okay. Well, hopefully you can get a chance to go inside. It'll give you a better idea. Well,
Where's Cole? Cole, raise your hand. If you want a tour of Kubota, hit that guy up right there and we'll make it happen. We'll show you what it looks like inside those walls.
If you've never been to one, I really recommend it. It's really, really cool. It's really, really interesting. That's right. I want to go. That's right. All of us want to go. That's right. Well, I know that we are wanting to save some time for questions, but our one last question that I really wanted to get for you guys today is, you know, want to have one last concrete piece of advice that you guys could leave, especially for the young people here today, you know, talking about their future, just one little piece of advice that you could leave with them, what would it be? I'm going to start with you, Ray.
That's a good one. I think earlier I said don't put yourself in a box. Maybe, you know, have a little grace for yourself as well. Understand that nobody expects you to know exactly what you want to do and where you're going to go, and you're going to figure that out as you go, right? Stay open-minded, stay flexible. I think, you know, my last few years in Coca-Cola, I did see a real change or shift in a cultural shift in sort of what organizations like any company like Coke or YKK AP are looking for, and no longer was it sort of emphasis on X or Y skill. It was really around these soft skills that you always hear people talking about, adaptability, flexibility, cultural fit, right? So, you know, as much as you can be a real person, right? And earlier today I heard just, you know, we're all sitting up here, we're all real people too. Just be flexible and give yourself a little grace. It's going to work out. It may not be the path that you initially thought you were going to be following, but it's going to be a good path, yeah.
Yep, agreed.
Find something that you love doing and figure out how to make a career out of that. But be adaptable and keep learning. Businesses are evolving, things are evolving, so always keep that hunger for learning. And skills can be taught. Anybody can be taught just about anything, but attitude and work ethic are what are going to set you apart and what are going to you know, drive you towards that corner office if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, if it's there. Yeah. The desk in front of all the other, yeah.
Yes, that dream cubicle that I want so desire. No, both of them bring up some good points. You know, where do I go from there? Like for me, so many things, but like find some good mentors. Maybe that's something that's a little different. Is just and part of that is expand your network, right? That's one thing I didn't leverage when I was at Purdue. It wasn't a focus. It was, all right, I've got to finish my studies, right? I got to get that project done. I got to try and get that A, right, so I can graduate and get that job. But having that big picture and the constant learning, right? You know, it's not just experience that you learn from. It's evaluated experience, right? Because if your experience is bad, well, then you're just going to keep doing the bad thing, right? So if you have a good network and you have mentors that'll correct you and teach you and that you can learn from, that's one thing that even for my kids, that's what I would love for them to have, right? They're in high school, getting ready to go into college, but yeah, a good network and good mentors.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you. Perfect. Well, I want to open up the floor to questions. Does anyone, thank you, Yoshi. Does anyone have any questions for any of the panelists or questions for me as well? We have about 5 minutes left, right, Yoshi?
10 minutes.
5 to 10 minutes. We have some time. So any questions for anyone?
Yes.
Hey, this is a little, I guess, kind of off topic from what you guys are talking about, but what keeps you motivated and what makes you want to work the hardest you can every single day and provide for your company?
Ooh, man.
Sorry, a
That's
little
intense.
deep, but
It's
anyway,
like
I didn't mean to
almost.
change the atmosphere too much.
Mary kind of talked about it, right? Finding something that you love, right? And so, you know, like one of the things that I figured out early on was my personal values. And then there's Honda's core values, right? And so my values align with Honda's values to the point where that's why I've stayed there for 27 years, right? It's you know, I've kind of find my why, if you know Simon Sinek, right, in his famous TED Talk, you know, find your why, right? But if you can find something that you love, then it doesn't become a job, right? Because you want to get up in the morning and do this, right? Like part of my why is trying to help others find their potential and maximize it, right? And so I get to do that every day when I wake up. And so that's why I'm not hitting the snooze button 4 times and skipping class or whatever it might be, right? But, you know, that'd be my advice.
Thank you, Terry.
And find something you love doesn't have to mean I love being a, you know, sustainability professional, right? I got my start as a financial auditor. That wasn't the goal, right? But you can find a lot of things that motivate you and that you love in the roles that you're doing, right? So the job category or title doesn't have to be the thing that you love. It's the what do you get out of it. So, you know, I think I've heard here the ability to influence teams, to work as part of a team for something better. You know, you don't have to say, I love being an auditor. Some people do. I would say it was kind of a step on my path and I wanted to get past it. But I still loved that, and I loved the ability to sort of work with teams. That particular job let me travel 100% internationally as well, which was something that I loved, right? But so that something you love, I think, is super important. But don't mistake that to mean that it has to be my passion is to be an HR professional or, you know, something. It could be something else that you do as part of being that job skill or that job. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they've answered it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah. Anyone else have any questions? So quiet. Oh, was there another one? Oh.
Sorry. You mentioned that cultural understanding a lot of the times is valued over the language skill. However, are there any positions or specific paths where you could say that knowing the language is in demand?
Great.
I mean, I'm going to put my prior company hat on, right? But the reason Coca-Cola took a bet on me was because I had language capabilities, right? I was a French major, and then I studied Japanese, and that role that I started on, which was 100% travel, was one that they wanted language experience specifically. And I think it's an interesting example that I didn't have some of the other technical skills that they were usually hiring for. I was an auditor. They typically hired accountants, right? but I was an MBA, not an accountant, but I had that Japanese and to some lesser extent the French language capability, and that was an important part of the puzzle that they were looking for, that they had a hard time hiring for. So sometimes, right, that kind of skill will fill the blanks for you, and kind of make you, more attractive or a more interesting hire for whatever it is that that company might be looking for. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I can actually add on to that, because when I came back from the JET program, I'm from Georgia, and I came back to Georgia, and I was hired at a Japanese manufacturing company down in McDonough for 2 years as a bilingual administrative assistant. So Japanese was certainly key to that. I had like JLPT high level into, and certainly in my current position, I use Japanese a lot. So there are opportunities to use Japanese where Japanese would be required, but just to also stress that there are plenty of opportunities where the culture would be helpful, give you a leg up, but you don't need the language. So, any other questions? No? Okay. No zombies down? Oh, I'm missing hands. Oh, sorry.
So I'm a kinesiology major, interested in going into biomechanics, so like analyzing performance with athletes. So I was curious if either with any of the companies you work with or with other companies, if you knew of any opportunities for a job like that.
Kinesiology, right? So, I mean, for example, the 57 associates that I have on the production line, right? That's 57 processes in which ergonomics are huge, right? So it's not just about automation, but it's when you're doing a process for 32 seconds, 750 times a shift, right? Like, kinesiology is very important. And so having that perspective, while we don't necessarily have one of those experts, right, subject matter experts at each of our locations, at our regional facility, we do have resources like that to be able to pull that in, because, the assembly plant, I'll brag a little bit, we had 560 straight days where we didn't have a recordable injury, right? Like, from a manufacturing perspective, that's almost unheard of.
That's awesome.
Right, but when you do that repetitive motion, anybody in manufacturing will tell you it's tough on the body, right? It's why we do 4-way rotation, so that every 2 hours you're switching to a different role, different position on the line, so that you're not using the same muscles 8 hours straight in a day. So yeah, for sure, in manufacturing, muscle usage, repetition, and all that comes into play. Yep.
Thank you.
Anyone have? Okay. Oh, one more question? Oh, sorry. 2 more. We'll get. I think there's 2 more, right?
So manufacturing, it's rewarding, but it is fast-paced, hardworking. What do you guys value as a team to keep the team successful? Or promote to the team?
So kind of tied to the Japanese culture, we call it the one-team concept, right? So if one process is down, then you're not going to make your 750, right? So everybody's success is also tied to everybody's failure, right? And so, we try and celebrate our successes, right? We try and fix our issues, and we're just constantly rotating PDCA. Or do you guys know what PDCA is? Oh boy. All right. We got an hour to talk about PDCA. It's a 4-step iterative process. Just plan, do, check, act, right? And you're just constantly improving. But the focus typically is you rotate PDCA on what's wrong, all right? And if I heard this from Andy Stanley, who's the North Point church pastor, right? You almost have to PDCA the good too, because if you don't understand why the good happened, then how are you going to repeat it, right? So it's constant PDCA. And so then it's not about the individual. The root cause is almost never the person, right? Because the person isn't trying to injure themselves. They're not trying to fail, right? So what systems, what methods can you improve? And so as a team, as a whole, we have to improve that.
What's PDCA again?
Plan, do, check, act.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would just add safety and quality, but safety is really job one. And I think we put a lot of effort into the idea that safety is not a KBI. It's not just a number. It's our culture, right? And we need to make sure that we're all safe. We're working together. As you said, if you have a safety incident, then you're not producing, and you're not serving your customer at the end of the day. And we all want to be selling and serving a high quality product to our customers. And so you can see in a number of our manufacturing locations, you'll see a program called Why We Work Safe, right? And it's because we all want to go home hopefully safer than we were when we came, right? And that's not because we want to make more of widget X. It's actually because we have family home or friends that we want to go back to, that we're supporting, whatever it may be. And so a lot of effort on sort of working together as a team, and why do we work safe? Yeah.
I think we had maybe one question, and that would be the last one. Yes.
Hi, my name is Reese, and I've been learning a lot about how important community is in Japan in my Japanese classes. And I was just curious if that shared sense of community is brought over from Japan and is like felt within the workplace, even here in the States, for your positions and your teams.
I would say it's not just with Japanese companies. I think that's a responsibility of any company. I mean, these communities allow us into their backyards, and we're providing jobs, but we should be giving back to those communities, being an active part of that community, whether that's through, partnering with the schools, or helping with habitat, or I just think that's part of your responsibility as an employer, and being as a member of a community.
You guys want to add anything? No?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you.
Melissa, can I ask one last question?
Oh, sorry. One last question.
So our next session is about AI, right? So just very quickly, I want to ask each of the panelists, what's one emerging kind of technology, one product, if you can share, that's not maybe top secret, that I guess our audience, and especially students, can be like looking forward to. I know Honda, Kubota, and YKK AP, you guys have very advanced products that maybe we don't get to see every day, but maybe one product or one kind of new innovative thing that you're doing that you'll be launching, if you can share a little bit with our audience before I guess we go to the next session.
Well, I'll go ahead and break ground on this question, because I know absolutely nothing about technology. I know absolutely nothing about research and development. I am a people person. But I can tell you that we're looking at ways to utilize AI in a lot of our recruiting processes. Matt, my TA manager, is here right now, and he's looking at different ways to look at 400 resumes in 5 minutes, and get a good listing of, who are your most qualified candidates, or however. But we're looking at ways to utilize AI in those areas in the HR world. Now, I can't answer it for the rest of the groups.
Well, I've got good news and bad news for you, right? Good news is it's an exciting time. It's all new, lots of opportunity. Good news for you, maybe bad news for us, is we're all still figuring it out, right? So, similar to a non-techie, right? We, in a field that probably has a lot of opportunity for AI when you think about design and architecture and schematics and everything, but we're all figuring it out. We've just formed what we're calling an AI leadership council within the company, right? There's a big appetite among employees. They want to know more about how they can use AI responsibly. They're looking for guidance from the company on solid policies, company-approved tools that they can use, a culture of exploration that we encourage, right? So I'd say it's the wild, wild west right now, and we're trying to put some guardrails, but then we want to encourage employees and functions to kind of figure out how to use it. So that's the good news. Bad news. Bad news, maybe it's early. Good news for you is, we have lots of need, and we may be looking for how do we do that with some other people that are going to know better than we do.
Yeah, I'll just add, right, for the students, like how many of you remember growing up without a smartphone? Oh, you guys remember? That's good. Okay,
How many of you remember when the internet came out?
Okay. So AI is kind of the same thing, right? It is kind of the wild, wild west because it's developing so fast that you almost can't keep up, right? Like we're just, we're almost like 4 or 5 generations behind in our application. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a huge field that it'll be interesting to see what the next panel says with regards to AI, because it's change is inevitable. You guys probably have heard that, right? But it's now, we talk about building good habits. How do you build AI into your habits, right? And so, yeah, it's all new territory, and it's a little bit scary, right? But at one point, these things were scary too, right? Because we didn't know where that was going to take us. So,
yeah, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.